Sprinklr Coffee Club. I'm your host, Marshall Kirkpatrick, and I really appreciate your taking the time to join us today. You don't have to drink coffee, especially here in the afternoon, to join the Sprinklr Coffee Club, but I might recommend it. We have a really exciting guest today that's going to bring us some deep thoughts, some cutting-edge insights from the world of big business and customer experience. I am really excited to have Esteban Kolsky on as our guest. Esteban was a Gartner analyst for some time and is now independent at ThinkJar. He has been studying how businesses can best make their customers happier for many years. And incidentally, that's our mission here at Sprinklr, to help organizations make their customers happier. So we're very well aligned, I think. You may have seen Esteban on shows like Ray Wong and Vala Offshore's Disrupt TV, where he's a frequent guest. You may have seen him on the Gilmore Gang, a podcast that has been changing my life since before I worked on the internet. And I'm really excited to have you here as our guest today on the Coffee Club, Esteban.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. I'm looking forward to this and have a great discussion. And speaking of coffee, let's show the mugs here. Only answer.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Fantastic. So, Esteban, you have built an incredible body of knowledge around things like CRM, customer experience, customer data. How did you get into this business?
I needed to get a real job once. I had spent a fair amount of time on startup world, and one of my startups wrapped up. I took 6 months off to do the soul searching. What am I going to do next? And I wanted initially to go back into consulting, but I wasn't really committed to it. And then I got a call from a recruiter who said, Gartner heard of you and they want to talk to you. And I said, I already have a job. I'm all set. I'm getting married. When I'm going on honeymoon, only have a day before I leave. And they said, oh, they want to talk to you today. If they like you, then they'll bring you in. And I said, I'll talk to them. I had done some work as an independent before with Gartner, but I talked to them and we clicked, and I got into being an analyst. I mean, the official way and the proper way, not just as a, coming from the outside, but with proper training and boot camp and the whole thing.
Oh, that's fantastic. I feel like people who haven't engaged with Gartner that much just scratch the surface in their understanding of what a big consultancy like that can do, a big analyst firm. And I'm sure you learned a lot there. I love engaging with Gartner. Yeah. Learned so much from them.
So I learned a lot of things. I would say Gartner to me was the best job I've ever had for many different reasons. One of them is like it helped me structure, it helped me understand, and it helped me create a better approach to what the value that I can bring. Before that, I had been a consultant, I had been a practitioner, I had been an analyst, I had been a vendor, I had been everything, but it was little pieces. Gartner helped me put it all together into a very solid model, or how companies, choose the technology, implement the technology, and how companies need to do a better job of strategy. And when I left Gartner, I decided to focus on the part that I thought that was missing, which is the strategic part. I'm very, very focused on strategy these days because I know that this is the biggest problem that organizations have, both vendors and end users, is understanding the strategy, how to do it. And Gartner helped me structure this in a much better way than it was possible before.
So how do you articulate that problem statement today? What problem are you helping businesses solve?
That's a great question with a very complex answer, but I'll try to do the short 3-second version of it, right? The problem today is technology is not the answer, and you need to understand your business better. And once you figure out that technology is not the answer and that you have a business that is more complex than you think it is, how do you use technology to help customers happy?
Right on.
That's
and if it's not technology that's the answer, is it a culture issue? Is it the two together? Is it people, process, and technology? What is there other than the technology?
So people process technology is a good start. I like to add two more, which are governance and metrics. So you have people, process technology, governance, and metrics. All five of them together is the answer. You cannot do one without the other. You need to have the right people with the right culture. You need to have the right processes with the right optimization strategy. You need to have the right data and the right technology. And you need to know what you're measuring. You need to know how you measure your success. What are you trying to do? How do you know if you're doing it right? And more important than anything is, how do you manage all this? You can't just say, let's go and see how it works. You need to know how it works, what it means, and how you measure that. And you need to know how you're going to get the processes and the people and the technology and the management and the partners and your customers and everything aligned towards the same goal. If you don't have a common goal with everybody, you're not going to get there. Probably the biggest thing you mentioned earlier when we were doing chit chatting before about findings of my research that we're going to talk about later. Probably one of the biggest things that I noticed, very grateful that I noticed in the last couple of years, is that we are moving away from results to outcomes, right? And there's a big difference in that, because result is single-sided, outcomes are double-sided. There's two people that contribute to an outcome, there's only one person contributes to a result. If you're looking for a result of customer happiness, you can create what you consider to be customer happiness, and your customers will be happy. But if you truly want customers to be happy, you can create your model and then make sure that the customers are happy by asking them if they're happy. So the second one is an outcome, the first one is a result. So I'm seeing a lot more change in organizations moving towards outcomes, and that's making me very, very happy.
Oh, that's fantastic. I am excited to go and apply that model in all kinds of thinking. If you are excited about that or anything else that you hear today from Esteban and want to jump into the conversation with questions or comments, we would encourage you to do so live in the show or afterwards. But while we're here in the show, if you want to post any questions you have for Esteban, we will bring them into our conversation in real time or near to. So Esteban, speaking of your research, we've been engaged now for almost a year, having conversations, doing various collaborations, because of a specific piece of research that you published that I was so excited about. I've been telling people about it ever since, but I wonder if you could tell us about it.
Well, thank you, first of all. I think that you're referring to the findings of the study that I do. I do a study every year for customer service, but I'm expanding it because one of the findings from the last few years is customer service is no longer its own island, but it's part of a larger integration into the whole enterprise. So I'm trying to integrate that into the whole enterprise. And I think that the biggest part of the research, and I think we have a slide on operational excellence, is that there's a change in operational excellence, right? Operational excellence as a model, as a strategy, was introduced in 1997 in the book Discipline of Market Leaders. Three concepts: one was operational excellence, one was customer intimacy, and the other one was product superiority, right? When you look at how companies operate, the old operational excellence, cheapest way to do it, most productivity, basically, right? Operationally efficient with the lowest cost possible. And what I found out in the last few years, and this is what I published last year when we started talking, was there's a new model of operational excellence where everything that we do needs to be outcomes first. So if you start for outcomes first and you go in a direction, it needs to be outcomes first, data-driven, automation-focused, based on an ecosystem with the customer centricity at heart of everything that you do. So these new models.
People are doing this now. This isn't aspirational. This is what you're observing out in the market.
People are doing pieces of this now. This is aspirational as far as I'm concerned to do it all together. There's a lot of people that are data-driven and customer-centric, for example. There's a lot of people that are ecosystem-based and outcomes first. But there's nobody that I found yet, although I'm talking to a few people that are in that direction, that are doing it all. To be customer-centric, focusing outcomes first, which is co-creative value between the customer and the company. To be data-driven versus gut-driven, and this is the way we always. To be ecosystem focused, so you can quickly optimize some your processes and people and your culture. It's really, really hard. So these are pieces that most people are doing, but when you start putting together the methodologies and the go-to-market from the market leaders, you start seeing how they use pieces of this here and there. So what I did is created this model based on all these conversations, and these models are still very, very much, what I'm guiding my customers to do. And they're
Esteban, how many conversations? Tell us a little bit about the scope of the research. How many companies did you talk to? How long have you been doing this research?
So the research is finishing. I'm finishing the conversations for the 7th year. For the first 4.5 years, the research was only quantitative, meaning that I only did surveys and put numbers out there. In the 4th year, I started doing some follow-up interviews and actually found that was a lot more value to do qualitative than quantitative, right? The numbers are great, but it really doesn't tell you what people are doing. So the last 2.5 years, I've been doing mostly qualitative. It's usually about 100, 150, somewhere in that range, people that I talk to. And in addition to that, I have thousands of conversations every year as part of my job with end users, with vendors, with consultants, SIs, and virtually everybody out there that I can talk to. And I just collate and correlate and curate all this information into the models that you see.
Oh, that's fantastic. What types of roles are the people that you're speaking to playing in their organizations?
So, like I said earlier, I try to focus on strategy. So most of my conversations happen at a VP level and above. But for the study that I share was director, senior director, VP at the most. I'm focused more on practitioners, people that are actually running, managing, and doing the work every day. So, I talk to people across the spectrum. I mean, most of my time is spent at the executive, at the senior VP, executive, chief level, C-level, but I talk to virtually everybody in the business.
So I love the model that came out of this, as you can see up on the screen again, this new operational excellence model. And I want to follow up on the part of the story that caught my eye the most, perhaps precedes this, and this is the outcome. And that was that, if I understood correctly, you found in this last year's research that on a fundamentally new level, customer care, customer service, customer experience were no longer being treated as loss leaders, but instead were being seen as drivers of strategic value. They were being funded and measured by multi-year digital transformation budgets. And holy cow, how inspiring is that? Is that a fair summary of that part of your finding?
That's a great summary and a really good point. I mean, one of the key findings that I had for last year's study was that budgets were increasing dramatically, somewhere in some cases 20, 30% year over year. And they were seen as one of the outcomes of digital transformation strategies that were being implemented was the customer service was no longer, like you said, a loss leader, but was a driver of value for the organization, and that it had to work together with the rest of the organization. That's what I said earlier. I'm no longer focused uniquely on customer service, but I try to make it enterprise-wide, because we have very few. I mean, not very few. Let me rephrase that. We still have over 60% of customer service organizations that are independent, and this is my take. I mean, there's not a data point, but it's my take from people that I talk to. But we have seen a growth to 40% of companies that take customer service to be strategic, to be a revenue leader, to be something that drives experiences, drives customer satisfaction, drives operations, optimizes operations, drives the collection of data for data-driven. It's in the forefront with some things like that. So all these things that make part of this operational excellence model are being integrated into the new models for customer service, and the customer service of the future will essentially become this five-point operational excellence as part of a larger end-to-end integration for the organization.
Can we put that model back up on the screen? I want to understand that all the more. So are you saying that a strategic approach to customer service feeds into all of these different components of the new operational excellence, or does the new operational excellence in all these forms support strategic customer service, or both?
So I used to end my presentations with a picture of an Ouroboros, which I don't know if you know, but it's a mythical serpent that feeds on itself. You've probably seen it, right? A serpent that eats its tail, and each time that it eats its tail grows bigger. So that's what this model basically represents. It's an Ouroboros type of model. It's like, both your statements are right. Those concepts fit into these, but having this also fits into a bigger outcome for customer service.
That's
It's
beautiful.
it's not even a catch-22. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? I mean, if I'm gonna do, let me give you an example. If I'm gonna be an automation-focused, outcomes-first company, then my customer service will improve. But because my customer service improves on the tail of using automation and focus on outcomes, then I can actually take my lessons and expand it to the rest of the organization. That will become more automation-focused and outcomes first, and then that will in turn feed into a better customer service process and so forth. So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, Ouroboros, self closing cycle of sorts, where you get the pieces to put into this, and then because you did that, you actually get from these more pieces to put into to improve as you go along. So from my
That's
perspective,
fantastic.
nothing is ever done. You're always a work in progress, no matter what you do.
Hallelujah. So tell me this: you're a guy that doesn't fall for hype, and but you're also really concerned about the impact of the way businesses operate on the people whose lives they touch. It was interesting to hear you discuss automation and improved customer experience in the same breath. Can you tell us what that looks like to you?
Sure. I think that there's a problem with automation, which is that most people believe that automation replaces humans, and it's absolutely impossible for a computer to replace a human. We're nowhere in the same realm of what we do and how we do it, and what they do and how they do it. A computer is a brute force multiplier of one and zeros, and the last thing that a person is a brute force multiplier of one and zeros. A computer can do things fast, efficiently, can do calculations much faster, can make decisions a lot faster, can consider many more variables than we can. I mean, computers can consider millions of variables in making a decision. We consider a handful of them at best, right? A computer can actually get 65 million inputs and consider them all before making a decision, and can make a decision down to the infinitesimal concept of what we're talking about. We make decisions because we have intuition, because we have gut feeling, if you may, because we have imagination to see things differently that computers don't have. So computers don't replace humans. They just replace some of the jobs that we do, and they do them better. And by all means, that's why we built them. We build computers to do things that we tell them what to do. That's why we build them. That's how we use them. We tell them to do something, they do it. We don't have to do it anymore. Now I can take my brain power, my cycles, my time, my approach to life, and apply it to something else that the computer cannot do. And then I can create a process, and then I can automate that process, and then they'll do that. And then I go to a higher level and so forth until I'm actually dealing with higher level processes that computers cannot do, and they're doing all the stuff that I don't want to do. I don't want to have to answer the same question 45,000 times. Let a computer do it. What are your hours of operation? I don't know. Ask the computer. I don't even know what time we are open anymore. It doesn't matter.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And it sounds like you are finding that vision is becoming reality, that at least a significant portion of the businesses that you are engaging with are already starting to travel down that road where they are freeing up that human cognitive labor to do higher level strategic work.
Yes. So that's a great point, because you said it the right way. You didn't say it's replacing. You said it's becoming a reality, right? It's a process. Artificial intelligence adoption, automation adoption is a process. You need to optimize processes. You need to optimize data flows. You need to have the right data. You need to learn from the data. You need to implement, learn from the implementation, and all that takes time. So but I'm seeing many more organizations actually going that road and taking the time to get to that point. That's the good news. I mean, it's no longer like it used to be. Well, we're never going to touch that because we're going to lose people. We're going to lose. Nobody wants to talk to a computer or whatever. And seeing more and more organizations that are actually saying, okay, you know what? There's value in this. Let's look into automation. Let's look how we can use it, how we can leverage it, how we can make better use of it. So yeah, they're getting started.
That's fantastic. I know that in the most recent episode of Disrupt TV, you had a conversation with Ray Wong and Vala Afshar about the way that AI is has been hyped so extensively, but the three of you in particular are really in a privileged position as high-level executive advisors and strategists to see some of the very best, real meaningful adoption and leverage of AI and new technologies, but that those of you who are in that kind of position really needed to help tell the story so that more people knew what was possible.
Yeah. There's no better, there's no better way to counter hype than with a true story. And that's one of the problems that we have today. It's like, there's not enough good storytellers. People do things and then they don't tell the story. They think that what they've done is not relevant enough or not sufficient or not powerful enough. And in reality, we're all in this together. We're all learning how to make these things work together. I mean, there's no computer that's going to replace a human, but there's a computer that's going to complement a human. And to complement a human, you need to understand what parts the computer can do. So tell the story. This is what I did. I actually reduced my cost of operations by 40% because we managed to guide people to the right place on the web instead of spending time on the phone. I use a bot that actually increased revenues by 45% because we took more orders via the bots that we could any other way. I mean, start telling those stories and start saying how you did it and how you got there. What are the lessons learned? Start sharing that, and then everybody else will be there. Otherwise, you're at the hand of people that are just hyping it. It's like, oh, you got to implement AI. If you do AI, your cost of operation is going to go down to zero. I mean, when I first started in customer service with Gartner in the 2000, year 2000, we were talking about you got to do self-service. You put a website, people go and find the information they want. It costs you a penny versus $50 for a phone call and $300 for a truck roll and all these things, which there is a certain value to it. But tell me more. How do I do it? Not the technology. How do I do it? How do I convince my people that this is what they need? How do I convince? More metrics do I look at? How do I convince my management to give me the leeway to do this? How do I implement and integrate the technology with what I have? I can't just bring a bot and implement it, willy-nilly. It needs to integrate with other things. It needs to work with everything I have. Hey, we have a mainframe in the basement for the last 40 years. That runs our entire company. How do I get data out of that to feed to a bot to get it done? Those are the questions and the stories. Those are the stories that if you start telling those, people will overcome the hype and start seeing how progressively you get there, right? And one more thing, and sorry that I'm speaking too long, but one more thing. In the last research that I did, in the conversations that I had, one of the most salient points was everybody is doing AI, but nobody's doing it right. And that's what they keep telling me. Well, we're doing AI. We have 5, 6, 10, 20, 15 projects in the lab, in the background. We did this little thing. But because we're not sharing the stories, because we're not comparing to anybody else, we think that we're not doing it right. We did this, and it was a small success, but it's not really what we were after. We're after to a much bigger piece. So how can we make sure that the bigger piece works, right? And that's what sharing the information, sharing the stories is about. We are at a point in time with the technology that we have and the power that we have and the intelligence that we have, we can nick this one. And we can make the next 10 years all about companies operating more efficiently by using technology the right way and people doing more higher level jobs like we're supposed to do versus constantly repeating the same stuff that nobody wants to do.
How does that relate to what you've referred to as outcome-driven innovation?
Great point. So I have another slide that I gave you guys for outcomes, and this is only for to give a perspective on outcomes, right? We have another slide that we'll share if we have time that has the next level for this. But this is basically a customer service. A customer service execution focus on outcomes, right? Events happen that lead to interactions with customers that use and create knowledge that cause actions to be taken. You guys can read, right? The problem that we had is we used to focus on the green event and the green concepts as customer service. We used to do let's do better events. Let's do better interactions with customers. Let's collect better knowledge. Let's execute better actions. Let's generate value. One by one, but we didn't know why we were doing this. Now, if you start focusing on the actual action, you focus on the yellow things, which is on the yellow arrows, which is the customer-centric outcomes. You're not want the events to happen, you want to get the understanding of the customer, right? You don't want interactions with the customers. You want to focus on the resolution. It's not about doing a better interaction, creating a better experience. It's about creating a faster resolution. It's not about collecting more knowledge. It's about the insights that you learn. So you start moving away from like, the actual actions and the processes and the people and the data to the actual outcomes of this. And then when you start going this way, you end up getting to the point of engagement, which is the ultimate outcome. So one thing that we've been doing in the last couple of years is that we've been talking about a new model for CRM, something that is more focused in not in the value to the company, not in a better sales event, not in a better marketing campaign, not in a better marketing customer service interaction, but how do we actually create these two-sided value propositions known as outcomes, and we incorporate that into CRM. So if you put the last one of the slides, then I can show you what conceptually, at least from me and the conversations that I have and the people that I talk to, makes sense as the new version of CRM, right? Each one of the little, I know I'm a great designer. I've been told that many times, right? But so there's two parts to this. There's 4 bubbles. Each one of the bubbles is an outcome. Each one of the things that are not bubbled is an action, right? So everything starts with conversations. This is one of the key things. We don't have interactions anymore. We have conversations. Conversations happen in any channel at any time, within a community, on Twitter and social channels, over the phone, willingly, unwillingly, casual, informal. But any conversation needs to have as an outcome a resolution, because something's expected out of a conversation. Once you get that resolution, that first outcome, then what you do is you create a relationship, right? The problem with CRM in the past is like relationship was the first step, and we forgot about how we get to that relationship. Once we get that relationship, they start generating the second outcome, and that's understanding. Through the relationship, we exchange information, we carry actions, we do things, we talk about it, we send information back and forth, and that generates understanding. That understanding ends up in trust. And the trust is where you want to be, because it's what starts generating what you're really looking for, right? Satisfaction doesn't happen without trust. A lot of these came from deep research that I've done in behavioral sciences. A lot of these came from talking to customers, but like satisfaction without trust is non-existent. You can do the best thing for me, but if I don't trust you, I'm not going to be satisfied. I'm always going to be asking for more. You can do the absolute worst thing to me, but if I trust you, understand that like, my satisfaction is not dependent on that only one action, right? And I seem to be having connection problems. I don't know if you can still hear me, but I'll finish this from trust on, and if not, I'll repeat it. So if you have the trust, you get to the thing, which is satisfaction. Satisfaction is where, like, we're so deeply focused on satisfaction through NPS, and so deeply focused on satisfaction through customer satisfaction and metrics and so forth. But satisfaction is the bottom line, is the baseline for commitment, right? And commitment is the last of the 4 actions that you're going to take on. If you are satisfied, if you actually had a conversation, generated a resolution, created a relationship, led to understanding, generated trust, ended up with satisfaction, now you have a commitment on both sides. And that commitment is what's going to lead to engagement as the ultimate outcome. And each one of these things is basically going to be done in a way that you're focused on the outcome, not on the action. You're not focused on the conversation, you're focused on the resolution. You're not focused on the trust, you're focused on the satisfaction. You're not focused on the commitment, although you need it, but you're focused on engagement. And if you focus on the outcomes, and you focus in this, like, two value provenance for both the company and the customer, now you have a better way where it ends up happening, things are better, more effective, more efficient, and all that stuff. So that's the very short version of that. I hope that you can hear me. I have an icon that says there's connection problems, which we've been plagued by technology problems, but if you can hear me, that was the basis of what we wanted to talk about with Marshall. I don't know if Marshall, if you're still there. If not, I guess I'm going to be doing the wrap up since we're coming up to the top of the hour. We have about 30 seconds left. If this doesn't work out, if this didn't work out well, I'm getting a message from Marshall, then I'll be more than happy to go through this again next week. Same channel. We figure out a way to do it. If you can hear me, thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate it. And if you couldn't hear me, oh well, we'll talk to you soon. And always,